This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast for Thursday, September 10th, 2015. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace here with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's happening, my man?
Man, it's a short week. We're back doing separate location podcasts via the World Wide Web, and we're glad to come at you again on a Thursday evening.
And Sherwin's got a different view. We do a little video conference here. He's got a little different view today. I believe you were saying in the pre-show that you had a much better view of all the action that's going on television. Here we are on Thursday, the kickoff of NFL football this year, and you're in your dining room, I believe, looking over toward the television room with multiple televisions on.
Correct. I, as a dedicated football fan, I felt like it was my responsibility to be able to give updates, like if Gronk's like he did about 3 minutes ago, and of course, being a diehard Braves fan, whenever they start this rain delayed deal, I'll have a view of that as well.
That was nuts, man. The Turner Field being underwater and water gushing into, I guess, a clubhouse. I don't know what it was, but
I don't know if you saw any of the stuff I sent out on Twitter, but
yeah, I did.
It like immediately reminded me of this picture book that my grandmother gave me after the 91 season. I believe it was May 19th, 1991. And Lemke is pushing Blauser in a grocery cart, and there's like 3 feet of water in the clubhouse.
That's awesome. That's throwback right there. So what you drinking today, man?
Hey, man, I am a plain Jane, boring boozeaholic. I've got Jim Beam and Red Rock Ginger Ale.
I think you're making a name for it at least. I believe you left this at my house, or actually it was left over from the Darlington race, the Rebel IPA from Sam Adams.
Tasty.
Yeah, very delicious. I'm already through one of them, and it's 6.5%, so it's I can feel it.
Nice. It's a delicious beer.
Yeah, it is. And I see my view of you is not the televisions, but I can see your kitchen back there where you concoct all these crazy schemes that you have with, well, mostly Jim Beam and Red Rock. But so that brings us to our shout-outs. We haven't had shout-outs in a while, which means we also haven't had this guy in a little while.
Screaming goat.
Our screaming goat.
Or sheep back. Or whatever it is.
Yeah. So we'll shout out this week to Matthew Bishop, the photographer and I believe Auburn student who.
Yeah, heck yeah. It was great to see him at the podcast, and like we discussed after we left it was kind of cool to see somebody that you started to develop a relationship with kind of seek you out and want to chit chat about some racing stuff. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was saying this is his first race in a while, or maybe the first time at Darlington where he's just been a fan. And props to him taking throwback all the way. He was wearing a Bush Reagan 1984 T-shirt, and I thought it was fantastic.
Right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, that was a great shirt.
Nice little detail.
Yeah, and I don't care what your political affiliation is. I think after 30 years or so, you get to wear a shirt that's throwback like that. So that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, heck yeah.
One more shout out that I'll do. So sometime last week, Dale Jr. sent out a tweet of a koozie that he had, and I don't think I talked about this on the podcast yet. And he was saying, "What are y'all's favorite koozies?" Well, I tweeted him a picture. I've got 2 plastic molded koozies of 2 different fish. One's a bass and one's a catfish. And my sister got those for me, so shout out to Steph there again. But they're facing upward. It's just their mouths, or just their heads, and their mouths are facing upwards, and you stick the beer down in their mouths. It's really cool. Well, Dale Jr. retweeted that, and suddenly I had 1 billion likes and followers and all this other mess. So if you're listening to us because you originally found out about us on that, hey, appreciate you listening, and hopefully we don't drive you away.
Yeah, that's how you catch lightning in a bottle, man.
That's the Twitter way, isn't it?
Yeah, it just seems to because it's such a broad-reaching community, when you have somebody as powerful on social media as Dale Jr., and I don't know that we can say this too many times, but when Junior won the 500 last year and paid his bet if you will, that he would join Twitter. He's pretty much won Twitter since then.
Oh, yeah. We've said it and we'll say it again.
He kills it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Darlington, man, we had us a good time. I think I'm still coming down.
You know, and all of the the personal fandom stuff aside, in terms of race cars on the racetrack, that was a perfect race weekend. You know, the camping was awesome. Good people watching in the campgrounds.
Definitely
the racing was fun to watch. It was really cool. The weather cooperated fantastically. I don't think it ever got over about 86 or 87 degrees. It felt like. I don't remember just sweating all day.
Yeah.
Any of the days.
No, it was great, and we were camped out underneath the trees there, so we had some shade next to the woods. Like you said, some good people watching, which is always part of our repertoire, and I think we did a little bit of people watching there on the podcast. So I can't wait for the next live podcast, and the next time we do this thing go around. I don't know, maybe we'll have to do it at a football game or something. Ooh, we do have a Thursday night football game one night, so maybe.
Interesting.
Yeah. Is that the Virginia Tech game? What game is that?
That's on the road.
Oh, that's okay. We have another.
Oh no, it's not.
We have a home.
No,
Thursday.
we have Virginia Tech at home.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure you're right that's a Thursday night game.
Yeah. So maybe we can figure something out for that. If not, we'll at least be in the same.
Maybe your wife can help us out with a neat location.
Ooh, yeah, that would be cool. I'll think about that. And I'll work on that. So our weekend story there, I don't think we had many stories. We certainly didn't have the the house party story again. We got there Friday evening, did the PETM podcast. Man, that was a blast. Like I said, I can't wait for the next one. Me and Sherwin, after recording that thing, we sat there and listened to the end of it. If you hadn't listened to it last week, just scroll. If you don't like any of this, just scroll down to the last 3 minutes or so, and you're just going to have a blast.
Especially if you are a watcher / follower of Discovery's Bering Sea Gold series, which we have dubbed Sea People.
Yeah,
which is it's remarkably similar people watching to a NASCAR campground.
Absolutely, and we people watched it right here on the podcast. So did our PETM podcast that night. Got up the next morning eventually and. Went to that Saturday race that Denny Hamlin won, and then he celebrated by going out and playing some basketball.
Yeah, and tore his ACL for the second time.
Playing basketball.
That's a bummer.
For the second time. Yeah. That is a bummer for him. I don't know. Now you've had an ACL torn. I don't know how that translates really on like I don't know, a few weeks later and throughout a month or 2 months or whatever, and having to race or drive a car. I don't know how that feels or how much that's going to affect him, or if that's just something that just in certain angles it hurts or whatever. I don't know. Do you have any perspective on that?
Well, so here's a scary thing about aging in life is that I'm now further away. I'm further away from my ACL reconstruction than I was old at the time.
So
I tore mine.
I know.
Tore mine right before Christmas when I was 15. I had it reconstructed about 4 months later when I was 16, and that's been over 18 years from now. So, the thing I will say about the knee is, since they don't have to run a road course where maybe you're doing some wacky right foot braking stuff and going back and forth between pedals, I don't know that it would be that big a deal. But of course, I didn't have to drive a race car for 4 hours like they're going to have to do when we go to Charlotte and run 500 miles, or Texas when we run 500 miles. So I would say that there's probably some like fatigue stress that will cause swelling for him and pain. But as Marty Smith so aptly said, Hamlin's the toughest guy he knows, the toughest guy he's ever met.
Huh.
He had some really awesome Southern colloquialism for how tough Denny is. Maybe if I get a second while you're chit-chatting or doing a monologue or something, I can pull it up.
Yeah.
Because it's really cool. I mean, Marty's got all kinds of great Southwestern Virginia sayings. But I think for the most part, it's probably not going to bother him too much. I know that I tried to try out for my high school soccer team wearing a brace without getting it fixed. Ultimately, that was a problem for me because I found a way to step on it the wrong way and basically do the same injury again. But just that the ACL was already gone, so the pain and the way the knee reacted was very similar. But since you don't plant and cut in NASCAR, I think he'll probably be all right.
Well, cool. I hope he is because we want to see all the contenders having a shot there. It sounds like he will be. I mean, they've assessed it, and that's just what they're going to do. Anything happen on that game yet?
No, still just the one Gronk touchdown. Let's see.
With the 30-yard extra point,
just got into the red zone. So it's 7-0 Patriots. 6.5 to go in the first half.
Okay. So after that race, we came back and we cooked us a pork tenderloin. I think we ought to put up some video at some point on how to cook a pork tenderloin because me and you have killed it over and over, and I don't know what else to say.
We don't not know how to do it, that's for sure. And the good thing is this is not a super big pat on the back, y'all. A center cut pork tenderloin is such a forgiving piece of meat because, with the way that pork butchering goes on today, you don't have nearly the same concerns that you had 15 years ago about getting some kind of crazy bacteria. You can pretty much cook a pork tenderloin to medium rare if that's your flavor. We probably cooked ours to medium.
Yeah.
And it's just the most tender meat. A pork tenderloin is even more tender than a beef tenderloin.
Yeah.
So just check out your pork section at your grocery store. If you've got a grocery store that's got a good meat department, they're going to sell pork tenderloins. They're not expensive, and they are amazing.
Yeah, and we found us some Carolina mustard sauce to go on it, and I can't say enough how good that was. Hey, back on Denny Hamlin, though, I forgot I was going to mention we actually met his mother and girlfriend.
That's right. At Bristol, they were at the Tweet Up.
Yeah, I can't remember if we mentioned it, but yeah, we at the
Jordan
Tweet Up.
Fish is even smaller in person than she looks like when she was a cheerleader for the Bobcats. She is tiny.
I was very surprised at how small a person she is, but she was I was impressed with how outgoing she was, how willing she was to just hang out with fans, take pictures with folks, smiling the whole time. Maybe she hated it, but outwardly it didn't seem that way, and so she seems like a really cool person. And his mom was hanging out too, so that was kind of neat to see the fam there.
Yeah, his mom's been doing it for a while. She's almost like a media member in a lot of ways when she does show up the track. But that was the first time I'd really seen any evidence of Jordan, and she was dragging that baby with her the whole way.
Yeah. So we get back from that race, we cook up our pork tenderloin, and then we get challenged to a match of cornhole or bags or whatever you want to call it. And for the second time in our lives, Sherwin and I completely obliterated another team.
Those poor guys.
They were cool guys. They were hanging out next to us, around our age, around our mindset, if you will. They're decent kind of guys. Hey, y'all want to play some cornhole? Yeah, we'll play. And they had these soft bags with the plastic boards with the oversized hole. And you give me and Sherwin that, we're just going to knock him dead. I believe I had about 8 swishes in the first game, which is not something that happens on a regulation board.
I don't want to cut you off in the middle of the story because I do want to finish it, but Gronk just gronked again.
Oh, good. Did it go into outer space?
I'm waiting to see the replay. I saw out of the corner of my eye that he had scored. I'm waiting to get a second look at the gronking. Oh, they didn't show it.
Oh, bummer. Come on. They're saving it for later. They know people are going to tune in.
So if you started Gronk in your fantasy league, you're pretty stoked right now. That's like 2 15-plus yard touchdowns for him.
Or if you're able to sneak in Tom Brady somehow.
Yeah, if you got them both, you're looking good.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we won the first game of cornhole. We were doing best 2 out of 3. We won the first game 21-0. It was almost embarrassing at one point where I think I threw the last bag, it swished. I was like, I guess that's game.
Oh, I remember that.
Should we
I remember your exact reaction.
Yeah,
I remember when it was 18.
Yeah.
So all you needed to do was make a ringer to win, and then you did, and it was like nobody reacted. And I was like, well, maybe I didn't remember the score right.
Yeah.
And
Oops.
like, I think that's game.
I think we just skunked these guys at their own board. Okay, we'll switch it up. Switch sides. We'll do it again.
Yeah, we switched like both vertical location and horizontal. So if you just walk straight across from the guy across from you, then not only will you switch boards that you're throwing at, but you also switch whether you're right or left of the board.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
Yeah, and that made zero difference.
It made 2 points difference for them.
I think they hung 4 on us, actually.
Was that 4?
Yeah, it was 4. So
actually, I think I remember being excited because it was like
yeah, when they finally
9
scored.
to 4.
Yeah.
And then we went like 12-0 from there.
And ended up 42-4 was the final tally, and I think after that we just sort of wandered back off into our place and said, all right guys, see you later. And I don't think we were invited back much after that to play cornhole.
Well, I had a thought. So in your mind, be queuing up the car crash noise.
Okay.
Because I do have a mistake I want to air.
Ooh. Well, I'll go ahead right now. We know we've got it. Here she is.
So, okay, now that we're like 15 minutes in a little bit, normally we do the mistakes we made first thing. But because I repeatedly incorrectly corrected Rusty last week on when it was we went to Darlington, I want to apologize. It was absolutely in 2011.
You had me convinced. I was just, okay, 2012. Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I just talked you right into it, and you believed me, and it was okay. It didn't really interrupt the flow of the podcast too much, but it was 2011 when Casey was running the Red Bull car.
Sherwin usually has a memory that just, blows anybody away. So if he corrects you on something, you just go with it. Oh, yeah, sure. That's what it was. Even if you don't necessarily, which I didn't have one way or the other. I said 4 years. He said 3 years. Yep, that must be it. But sounds like this time my random guess was more accurate.
Yeah, no, you were right. I couldn't put all that information together. I was too excited to do an onside podcast.
Yeah. So went to the tweet up the next morning, or I guess the next afternoon. But man, the tweet ups it's so much fun now. I think when we have a podcast, when we have people that we can talk about that with, other people that we can hang out with, it's been really cool. We call it running for mayor, but we're running for mayor a little bit during the tweet ups.
It is a little bit, but it's running for mayor in a situation that has nothing to do with your employment or personal financial gain, which really takes the stink off of it.
Yeah. Till we start monetizing this thing,
Well, then that'll be different.
Commercials. We'll be running for mayor for real. But
hey, you know what? Comedians do open mic nights for years before they start getting paid gigs. So
that's
just
right.
Keep that in mind.
That's right. So we were wearing our Marty and McGee 406 T-shirts. You wore yours at Bristol. I had forgotten mine, but then we wore those. I had cut the sleeves off of mine, so just to make it more redneck, and that was fun. And had a little interaction with McGee on Twitter. That was cool. And how about McGee's dress up, man? That was something else.
McGee's throwback was pretty cool. I'm gonna not even try to say that. Is it Economaki?
Was
the name
know better
of
than
the guy he was dressing up as? An old school ESPN guy.
Oh yeah.
From like the early it wouldn't have been early 70s, but late 70s, early 80s. The cream yellow sports coat with the big goofy block ESPN lettering on it.
Yeah.
That it's great for a costume. He had the really big rimmed
black
glasses,
yep.
like dark rimmed. He looked in a lot of ways. He looked like Howard Cosell, except for the glasses. But
Howard Cosell.
Howard Cosell. But let's not forget the other civilians that we interacted with, not that you were going to forget them, but we had, is it Diane from LA? Is that
Diane from LA? Yeah.
I haven't figured out her Twitter handle yet. I've tried a couple of times. And then what was the guy's name that I took a picture of his Braves tattoo?
Yeah, I forgot. He had a Braves tattoo on the back of his calf.
Was it Eric? He followed me on Twitter.
It might have been Eric. Yeah, it was Eric. It was definitely Eric.
Yeah, it was like the Eric something.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, cool
so
guy.
Apologize, Eric, for the partial shout out. I could probably go digging through my Twitter and figure it out, but that's probably not productive while we're actually on the air.
Yeah, so tweet up, man. That was a blast. Of course, we go to the race. The throwbacks at the race.
Hold on a second.
Oh, go ahead.
Definitely want to give a shout out to Bob Pockris for giving us a significant period of time to talk at both Bristol and Darlington, and he kind of. I don't think he knows who we are, but he recognizes that he's spoken with us before, and that's cool. We missed Weaver. Weaver, what's going on, man? You missed
what happened, Weaver? Missed a tweet up.
I saw Kelly Crandall, but I didn't get a chance to meet her.
Yeah, one other thing I forgot to mention. So I've got a few years ago, my wife asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I said I don't know. She said, "Well, here, go on Amazon.com." And punch in a few things that you want. Put it on your little list. There's some sort of I want this list or whatever you call it. And she said, just fill that out and I'll buy stuff off of that. And I said, well, I'll show her. I went on there. I found the most redneck crap that I could find. Just the most awful, just redneck stuff. And sure enough, and I didn't say another word about it, right? I just put it on my little thing and told her, yeah, I filled out the thing. And sure enough, that was probably 2 months prior. I'd forgotten all about that whole deal. I don't get all jacked up for Christmas and presents, me like that. I like giving presents, but for me, I'm like, whatever. But sure enough, Christmas comes around. I start opening presents. It's every one of these redneck things that I had ordered. And so one of them is a fanny pack that is, and don't think of it like a fanny pack. It is, but it goes around your waist like a cummerbund, really. It's camo colored, and it's got 6 slots for canned beers to go in. And I'll tell you what, I wear that to the tweet up, and we're walking along and get some comments. But when you're walking along with people toward the track, it's just pretty much the same 10 people that you're around the whole time. The big thing is every time we're coming back from a tweet up, that's around the time people are starting to go into the stadium or into the track. And so we probably passed 500 people, and it is unbelievable. I can't step 3 steps without another person talking about the camo belt beer holder thing. And if you want that, guys, just go on Amazon.com, get you one, and then just start walking around a racetrack, and you'll be the center of attention, I guarantee it.
I'm ordering that damn thing right now.
You can throw it around like a bandoliers or whatever they call it, where it goes over your shoulder, holds your shells and everything.
Rambo style.
Yeah, Rambo style. You maybe double up. That would be cool too. Yeah, he's typing stuff in. I think it was like $5 too. It's the most attention I've ever got for $5.
It is $6.49 on Prime.
Yeah. They've gone up in price over the last 3 years.
That thing is bought.
So now we'll be the camo belt twins at the next racetrack.
Add to cart.
Look for us.
Proceed to checkout.
Proceed to checkout. Type in. Tell everybody your credit card number there.
Oh yeah, no. Well, they keep that for you.
You just mash a button. Yeah, just start mashing buttons, and it's coming tomorrow. You got that Prime?
Yeah, I got that Prime. You know I got that Prime.
It's coming soon. On. So let's talk about throwbacks. I don't think we have to talk too much. We talked about it last podcast, but I want to talk about throwbacks in terms of another topic, which is a viewership and attendance. The attendance was, out the roof. I haven't gone back and looked at that. I need to go back and watch some of the race just to see. But from the stands, it looked like it was the most packed house in terms of percent of capacity that I've seen all year.
I don't remember seeing very many empty seats. Obviously, there was a couple near us, but not really. And we were sitting in turn 4 in the Pearson Tower. The front stretch looked slammed. It also looked slammed during the Xfinity race, which was awesome. And
Yeah.
The ratings were close to 2x what NASCAR has been averaging on the year, and that, folks, is significant, particularly when you have to go up against opening weekend of college football.
So what was the difference? What happened? Was it the throwbacks, you think?
I think it's – NASCAR went full bore with marketing the fact that we were going back to Darlington for the Southern 500. Every team was like, yeah, we can do on that. And they got their paint schemes ready. Everybody tweeted like hell. And, they just – I don't know if it's a one-time like wave of enthusiasm and momentum. I hope for Darlington's sake that's not the case, that this is one of those things that sometimes the legacy of a track and the legacy of a weekend can drive fan behavior. I think one of the things, if you looked at your Facebook over the weekend, what you saw is all of our Georgia friends were either at football games or they were at the lake. And in upstate South Carolina,
or Dragon Con, that was a big draw.
Or in lower Piedmont, North Carolina, that maybe the lake is not as desirable as being at the racetrack.
That's true. Lake would be very cold around that area as well.
So I don't,
So and you know what? We saw this at Atlanta, and so we're gonna have to watch over the next few years. At Atlanta, the first time they held it or on Labor Day weekend, the first time they held it Labor Day weekend, we were there. That place was rocking. That place was nuts. The campground was going crazy. What was it? 4 years later, we're sitting there. We're the only people there. It's not crazy. Nothing going on. Everybody goes to bed early. I mean, it was not nearly as rowdy and crazy. And I say rowdy and crazy, not in a bad way. It was just a fun time everybody was having. But then they all started, like you said, going to the lake and going to the college football and all that. So I'm not trying to be a downer there. I really hope it's going to be better. And I think you and me are already sold on going next year.
Yeah, absolutely. But those first 2 years, because when the Atlanta race, the second Atlanta race moved up from Halloween weekend to Labor Day weekend, that was the first time they ever ran the Cup race at night. And I believe that was also the first time they ever ran the Xfinity race at night. So you had all these new things going on. While it was hot during the day, you had night races. And the novelty of it was enough, but that third and fourth year significantly dropped in attendance. And we saw that in the campgrounds. We know that, I mean, Atlanta, I don't know how many tracks are like this. Atlanta is the kind of racetrack in its heyday, let's call that the early 2000s, where 200,000 people would camp.
Oh yeah.
And only 100,000 would go to the race.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it was because camping at the racetrack is just so much fun. There's just so many, there's so many fun people. There's so many fun things to do. Even when the weather was cold, there was still that many people there.
Mm-hmm.
When it dwindled down to one race and it was on a hot weekend, and then you work a rain out in there, and people just get discouraged.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, I mean, there aren't any rainouts at the lake because that time of year we don't get those all day rains. You just get spotty stuff that might impact a race, but it wouldn't have no impact on being at the lake house.
Yeah. And I mean, it permeated even to our own campsite. How many people did we have at least staying with us? We probably had 8 people at one point, and visiting us, we had 20, 25.
We've had 3 tents worth of folks, before.
Yeah, 3 pop-up
and
then
the
canopies.
Day of, have 20 guys in camp drinking cold beer and eating barbecue ahead of a race.
Yeah, and then by the end, I mean by February, but by the last time we did the Labor Day, I think it was me and you and maybe one other, maybe 2 other. I can't even remember. But
by the time the Sunday race came around, I'm pretty sure it was just you and me.
Yeah. So the lone holdouts there. So
yeah, I mean, we had Colin and Waylon came in on that Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
and then my parents came in for late lunch,
Yeah,
and that was it.
Yeah, that was good too. So I don't know. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here. I want it to keep going well. I hope that they even do throwbacks even harder again next year. I think doing it once a year is a great idea, and I think there's not a better place to do it than Darlington. I just got goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah, heck yeah. I mean, so it's always good to do a throwback. And the thing is, and most of these teams that have been around for a little while have multiple eras they can throw back to. And even if the team hasn't, the car numbers, because the car numbers, there's only 100 numbers. Actually, I guess there's 101 if you count 00, but there's only 101 numbers. So a lot of these numbers have been around for years and years and years. They've swapped teams. They've swapped drivers. I mean, you think about off the top of your head, what would you think is the winningest car number? Just off the top of your head.
43.
Nope, it's the 11.
Ah.
And you start thinking about who all's driven the 11. The big names that I can think of right now are Yarbrough and Waltrip and Hamlin.
Mm-hmm.
And between those three guys in that 11 car, they have like 150 wins or something crazy.
Wow.
So, and I think I exaggerated a little bit, but I mean, you think of the 43 and it's like you got the 200 wins, but that car's only won 8 times or something when Richard Petty wasn't in it. So it's only got like 209 total wins.
Yeah.
But there's always something you can go back and to get the fans involved. Like if you looked at the 17 paint scheme, that was one of Pearson's rides, kind of a dull blue color with a gold roof. It looked classically old school, but there were so many different 17 paint schemes. They could throw back to the Tide ride when Walter drove that car in the late 80s.
Yeah.
There's just so
many.
And
when he was dancing and all the rest of it. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Now, speaking of the Tide Ride, I'm going to give a shout-out to the number 32 team because they came back with Ricky Craven's version of the Tide Ride.
That was cool.
When he beat Kurt Busch at the line in 2003, probably one of the greatest finishes in NASCAR history.
Yeah. So the aero package, the experimental aero package, it seems to be universally liked. Being at the race, for me, I think when you're at the race, you're not paying attention to that stuff as much. You're just watching these cars. You're watching your guy. You're listening. You're seeing all this stuff go on. But then at the end, it sounds like, the aero package was a success here, and we're looking forward to more of it next year.
Well, I think the biggest thing that you see, I wasn't able to capture it in the moment because, like, we got the ear things plugged in. We're listening to our driver's communication, and really that's about it. And you're zoned in. But what you saw at Darlington, and the aging of the track has helped. But what you saw is at no point in time was every car in one line. Like, even at the start of a run, the middle of a run, the end of a run, nobody was ever in the same line. And cars, I don't remember watching any car struggle to pass somebody they were faster than for more than 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah.
And that's been the problem in NASCAR last couple of years is you might spend 10 laps trying to pass a guy, and by then you've heated your tires up so much you got to just get back in line.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's part of the sport. Some would argue that, well, you should have set your geometry up better to be able to run that line. Well, whatever. I mean, there's a million things. But
this is the racing that we like. This is the type,
I mean, I think what we saw was good. I think it could get better. I think I'm on Carl Edwards' side in terms of cut the splitter off. I don't think I'm on his side in terms of cut the spoiler off just because I think it would hurt the look of the car too much.
Yeah.
But I think we need to look at going back to a front air dam instead of a splitter for sure.
Yeah. I like that look better too. So
it's sharper.
Yeah.
It's less boxy.
So did you see on Twitter, so abandoning Darlington for now, did you see on Twitter the pictures that some guy posted? He stopped by Rockingham Speedway, or Rockingham International Race. Rockingham Speedway. I don't know which one they call it.
Well, it used to be North Carolina Speedway, and then it was bought and rebranded. And I forget the name of the guy. I used to follow him pretty close because he had a lot of Twitter traffic, and he was a cool dude. He bought the track, and he changed it to Rockingham Speedway.
Yeah. And so a guy stopped by there after the Darlington race and took some pictures around the track. Man, it was a bummer to see. That place is overgrown, weeds coming up through the track. There's all the the scoring tower and everything's on its side. All the concession stands are ransacked and graffiti and stuff. It was just a real pain to see that, especially considering you and I hadn't been able to go there.
Well, we never got to go there, and our favorite Cup driver won his first race there in the last year that the sport ran there. So there's a lot of those little crazy timing things, and to see it come back and last a couple of years with the trucks, and our guy went back there in a truck because of the nostalgia, ends up winning the race. Coming from the back, and Kyle Larson won a race there. But, the fans of the upstate South Carolina and the lower Piedmont, North Carolina, they said they were going to come, and they flat didn't.
And with the attendance problems we're seeing today, I wonder if that would even be a problem anymore with the TV contracts that we get and all the money that's flowing. I wonder if that track would actually lose a date under the same circumstances today.
I wonder that too, because I think, and this is totally off the cuff, but I think that track only holds, like Darlington only holds 58,000 people in the stands. I think North Carolina Speedway, now Rockingham Speedway, maybe only held about 45.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So.
You look at the stands. There's hardly anything.
But I think if you ran a race there this week, you'd kill it. Because I think it was more of a socioeconomic thing. In 2010 and 2011, when we ran the truck races there, people were still suffering quite a bit from the job loss hangover. I was one of them, to be fair. I think if you could go back now, it's a matter of time. It was J.R. Hildebrand, I think was the guy's name, or maybe that's a race car driver, something like that. Hilgen, something. Anyway, doesn't matter. I think if the timing had been 4 or 5 years later than it was, of course, the racetrack would have been in way worse condition. But I think you would have had a better fan situation. Now, the thing we forget about, and I don't know if this is still active or not or whatever, but the guy that bought North Carolina Speedway immediately built a replica of Martinsville on the site. And that's where everybody goes to test for Martin.
Right. Because you don't have, or you can test at any track, just skirting the rules or whatever. You can test at any track that's not a cup race track. And so, everybody goes to the Rockingham Martinsville.
Right. Well, you used to could. This year they shut it all down.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we hadn't heard as much out of Rockingham. And it might have been last year that they shut everything down. So because testing generates a tremendous amount of revenue for a track, especially if they don't host a major event.
Sure.
VIR is one. That's a road course where people used to test at a lot. The Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway is one of them. There's several tracks, Salem in Virginia. There's several tracks where these guys would go test short track setups when they used to be able to test, but NASCAR shut that down. So you're not hearing about these tracks, and therefore people aren't going to them. I mean, I think the Saturday night summer stuff is probably doing okay at your hot spots, like South Boston and Virginia and Salem and Virginia and Bowman Gray. That's never going away. That place is nuts. Greenville Pickens, those, I don't think those guys are really suffer that much, but we see it happen here. The tracks near us, like Gresham Motorsports Park, has basically shut the doors.
Oh, yeah.
And that used to be like the site of one of the biggest super late model races in the Southeast.
Yeah. Up until very recently.
The World 300 was at Gresham. It's gone. That doesn't exist anymore.
So before we move on to next week, I need to give you props. I think that for the first time in PETM history, you made, or either one of us made, but this time you did it. You made the winning pick. So huge congrats on that one, man. That was really cool. That was your dark horse pick.
Yeah.
To get Carl Edwards, but you picked Carl Edwards and he won the race. So hopefully that's one of many to come that we pick, but that was a great pick, obviously.
Well, and that pick was buried in the back of my mind based on how much Carl Edwards has been fighting for this aero stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that was really cool.
Sure.
So congrats on that one. Want to make sure we get that out of the way before we start making picks next week. We're talking about Richmond next week, man. Last time.
We're talking about Richmond less than 48 hours.
Yeah, yeah. And your last win it in your in race.
It's the last win it you're in race. And we're just in the sophomore version of this chase grid, knock them out championship format. So we don't have any real we don't have a lot of statistics. Last year we had 15 winners. This year we're only going to have a maximum of 12 with the potential that we actually might get 5 guys in on points with only 11 original winners. So that's something to talk about. Now, maybe not so much here on the podcast, but certainly for the media, talk about this whole winning you're in. Well, we got 5 guys that didn't win that are probably going to be in.
Yeah, and if 5 guys make it, that means at least one of them is going to make it to the next round.
I mean, statistics says one of those guys is going to make the final round. I mean, Newman did last year.
I'm just saying even make the next round. It's 100% one of them will make the next round.
Exactly.
All the way to the end. Like you said, Newman made it to the end last year. So
and finished second.
In the race. Why
he wins? He wins.
Is it
the whole thing?
Is it because I don't know, that I just like to see chaos in the world, that I just want one of these non-win guys to win the championship just to see? Does that make sense?
No, since we're in the model that we're in, I absolutely want to see the thing that drives the most controversy.
Yeah.
But I think it's ridiculous that we aren't willing to talk about the reason why we have this new format, and it's because the sponsors have demanded more attention, especially with the winning stuff. And I always want to see a spade called a spade, which is why you see Roger Goodell getting creamed on media. Yeah. Because every decision he makes is based on how much money the NFL can make.
Yeah.
And that's all I want NASCAR to do is say, hey, we can actually make more money, especially in our TV deal, if more sponsors are involved in the chase and more of them are competitive, are in it to the end, that sort of thing. And that's what we did. We did not do this to get more excitement out of who's going to win the championship. We did it because this is a sponsorship and television dollars thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially with the television money that has been paid for this year from NBC, trying to launch their new platform with NBC Sports. So yeah, it's a big deal. So, time for picks. And you know what our soundbite is for picks coming up. There he is again, deserving every second of every clap that he gets. So
I don't know how you can do it better than that, really. I mean, that's why he's number one.
We've seen some weak ones since then, so hopefully somebody will throw down again. So
I don't know why you would even accept the honor of doing the call to fire if you weren't willing to be crazy with it.
Agreed 100%. So you won last week. Tell me who your pick is, and don't pick my guy.
Well, you know what? I'm just going to come right out of the gate with it. There's 2 teams that perform extraordinarily well.
You're going to pick my guy.
And one of those guys is Dale Earnhardt Jr., but he hadn't won in a while. And another one of those guys is Kyle Busch. I think it's going to be Kyle Busch.
So I've got
my money pick, my pick, if you're betting in Vegas, my guess is Kyle's probably going to get like 7-1 odds, and I'm going to go with him.
Yeah, my hands are away from the keyboard, but I can take a picture of it. I've got it written down, Kyle Busch on here as well. He has, because I looked up a stat beforehand. I'm like, I wonder what he holds here. He has the highest average finish at Richmond with 5th. Averages a top 5 at this place.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, like you said, you can't not pick Kyle Busch.
Yeah, you're crazy if you don't.
Yeah. Do you have a dark horse, you said?
Yep. Oh, yeah. I'm probably going to steal this one from you, too. You shouldn't have let me go first. With all the controversy surrounding everything about Richmond, gotta go with winning you're in Clint Boyer.
That's really funny. We are very much aligned on our thinking. So here's what I'll say is just to be different, so that just in case Boyer wins a thing, I'll say Casey.
We can come up with a third one, a tiebreaker.
I'll say Casey.
Okay.
Just another win it and you're in it kind of thing. He won it to get in it last year in the last race. We've seen it done. It can be done, and it can be done by Casey Kane. Matter of fact, he holds the record of most win it and you're in it's ever in the history of NASCAR.
Well, that's fun.
With one. But
well, if he's only got the one, then he's actually tied with his former teammate Jeremy Mayfield.
Did Mayfield win it? I'm talking about in the
in the win it and you're in it, like the chatter
chase grid deal. Yeah,
Mayfield won a race late. I believe it was at North Carolina Speedway, Rockingham.
Okay.
In 05 or 06? 06.
Okay.
05. He had to win to get enough points to make the chase.
Yeah. I got you. So, okay, maybe he's tied. But we'll give tiebreaker to the guy who wasn't arrested for all the things we've talked about before.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, let's go ahead and get Casey a second win. I mean, that would be fun. Yeah, I mean, Richmond, there's a lot of good stuff. I mean, Junior runs really well there, but hasn't won in a while.
Yep.
Kenseth quietly runs very well there. Kansas.
So, some news for our fans. We unfortunately won't be having a podcast next week. I need like a boo soundbite here. So I'm going on vacation again. You'd think that's all I do is go on vacation all the time. But I'm going to be gone. Maybe I can try to send out a soundbite or something. We'll see what we can do. But as of right now, there's nothing scheduled. So I think that
maybe I can put together like 15 or 20 minutes on my own.
Yeah,
I'll get bored of myself.
Figure out how to upload it. So I'm going to play this again, man. And the reason I'm playing it, because that means we got to pick for Chicago as well.
Oh, that's harder.
I've got my. I'll throw out my pick here because I made you pick first this time.
Well, it's harder because I'm watching NBC do their intro commercial to Sunday night football. It was Faith Hill for a while.
Yeah,
and it was Carrie Underwood. They just did a commercial with Faith Hill, Carrie Underwood, and Pink. And
oh wow,
it was.
That's got to be distracting. That's distracting. So Chicago, here's who I'm picking, and I think everybody on earth knows why I'm picking, is Jimmy Johnson. I think he is Mr. Chase. He's going to, he's got to get out of his, I don't know if it's a slump right now necessarily, but his name's going to be at the top of the leaderboard again. And he's going to have a good chase. I think he's once again going to have a good chase. And once again, time to peak again here soon. So I've got Jimmy Johnson for Chicago.
Well, Chicago. I had two in mind, and so that I could flip-flop depending on who you picked.
Yep.
I didn't have to flip-flop. The one you picked was actually the guy I had as 1B.
Okay.
1A is Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Right.
Last year's champion. Just cruised through. Cruised through this year. So yeah, and he's still on a roll. It's not like he's fell off any.
Either has already tied, set, or is potentially going to tie, set, or own the
1-2. Is that what it was?
Second place finish. Record.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Has 14 top twos.
That's ridiculous. We've only had 26 races, or 25.
25, yeah.
And he's top two 14 times. Unbelievable.
Yeah, crazy.
Well, man, let's close it out here, I guess. I hate it, but let's talk foosball.
Foosball. Well, we certainly had a fantastic time. I don't know that we mentioned it too much at Georgia Tech's opener.
Yeah.
A little bit stiffer of a test this weekend. First, like afternoon Saturday home game in a while, which you're going to miss because you're a jerk.
Sorry.
I'm going to enjoy it. Again, my parents are going to be there. That's going to be fun.
That's great.
The Falcons are kicking off NFL Monday night.
Yeah.
Very first game, hosting the Philadelphia Barf on Peoples. And that's where I'm at with Philadelphia fans.
So there's a chance week 2 that I might be able to go to the Falcons-Giants game in Giants Stadium, MetLife Stadium, in New Jersey. So
it is in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's across the river. So I'm looking forward to maybe doing that. If I do that, I'll get all pumped about it on the next podcast. But once again, guys, no podcast next week, unfortunately. But we'll see what it brings us. So,
yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get ahead of this thing enough because Rusty doesn't have a memory.
It's horrible.
Get equipped to be the host or the uploader of the podcast. I did keep my Spreaker active, so I may be able to swing one out there recording on my iPhone. Maybe do 10 or 15 minutes just to make sure y'all don't forget how annoying I am.
We'll send them all the passwords and stuff. So that's going to bring us to the end, guys. I appreciate you hanging out with us and for sticking around this long. If you've sat around and listened to us talk for this 50 minutes, I think we're coming down a little bit from our crazy times over at Darlington and Bristol. So I'm just kind of smooth sailing right now. We'll be
I'm just impressed we've done 17 of these things. I
know.
So thumbs up. Awesome. Appreciate y'all sticking around.
Yeah. So you can follow us at PETM Podcast on Twitter. Once again, I'm Tailgate Mayor at Tailgate Mayor.
And I am Pregame Engineer at Pregame ENG.
See y'all next time.
Peace.